and welcome to day 22 of the Genesis of Androzani Advent Calendar for 2018. This video is a bit delayed, obviously, but still willing to get it out to you despite that. Of course, this video is going to be audio only with pictures, similar to my Christmas ranking from day 1. As video is not an option for this one, but I hope you enjoy the visuals as they are. Now, in this video, I am going to be ranking the New Who series finales from worst to best. Now, to define this, I'm only going to be ranking based on the final episodes in the series from series 1 to 11. So no specials, and I'm not going to be including, say for example, if there's a two-parter, I'm not going to be including the first part. I'm only going to be including the final episode of each respective series. Now, with that in mind, best not muck around and let's get on with it. So at number 11 in last place, I mean, those of you who subscribe to the channel will already have seen this coming. It's Hellbent, the biggest pile of rubbish that this show has ever produced. I absolutely despise Hellbent. I think it's a piece of garbage and should be thrown away and never watched again unless you absolutely have to watch it. And yeah, I absolutely despise this episode. If you want to know more about my opinions of Hellbent, just watch any of our other videos where we bring it up. There's a whole bunch of them on our channel where Hellbent comes up in discussion, sometimes directly and sometimes in reference. Yeah, it's just absolutely god-awful and I don't want to talk about it anymore, so we'll move on to the next spot. So at number 10, we have The Wedding of River Song. Now, if you watched our top 10 worst stories video from the Advent Calendar, you will know that The Wedding of River Song was in it. I'm not going to spoil which place it was, go watch that video to find out, but yeah, The Wedding of River Song, the finale of Series 6, is just an absolute mess. From start to finish, none of it really works. It's just so shambles. It's just shambles, really. And it's an episode that I can never enjoy. It's a cop-out to a wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey story arc that never went anywhere. It led to fuck all. Oh god, if you want to know more about my opinions of Wedding of River Song, go watch the top 10 worst stories video, because I go more in depth into it there. Just like Hellbent, I really don't want to talk more about this episode, so we'll just move on to number 9. So at number 9 we have the latest finale, The Battle of Ranskoor Av Kolos. Chris Chibnall's first stab at a Doctor Who finale. Of course he had done finales before for Torchwood, and yeah, I'll save my opinions on those when we get to them. But this one I just found very boring. It was definitely the most lackluster finale in regards to energy and effort. There was nothing absolutely terrible about it, but there was nothing really good about it either. I just found the entire thing flat from start to finish, and yeah, Battle of Ranskoor Av Kolos it's sort of a showcase of exactly all the problems that Series 11 had, in the sense that it just really didn't achieve anything. It was just vanilla, mediocre, bland, and flat, and really disappointing, to be honest. So, yeah, I don't really want to talk about that one anymore either, so we'll move on to number 8. So at number 8, we have Death in Heaven, the Series 8 finale. So, I used to describe this finale as the most flat finale we'd ever had, but of course that has now been overruled by the Series 11 finale, but that doesn't really excuse this one. Death in Heaven, I mean, to be fair, Dark Water coming before it was a pretty decent setup, and if this list was including two-parters as a one story, we might have a slightly different take on this story, but Death in Heaven by itself is just, I don't think it's a very good episode. It's not the worst thing ever, but it just doesn't do anything with what it has. You know, the setup of the first female master with Missy and the Cybermen coming from this it's a very, very dark story with the whole, you know, don't cremate me thing and dead corpses being converted into Cybermen. It's one of the darkest Doctor Who concepts, but the problem is, for the lack of a better term, it's just flat. And I don't know how, because Stephen Moffat is known for doing these wacky ideas and just going all the way with it. But this one, I don't know how he managed to do it, because he's Moffat, but for some reason, this finale just doesn't do... It just comes off really flat, and by the end of the episode, I feel nothing. It's like the Battle of Ranskoor Rav Kolos in terms of its feeling, except at the very least there were some neat sort of ballsy ideas that went into it. But yeah, Death in Heaven's just not good. So at number 7 we have The Big Bang, the Series 5 finale. Now, I think from this point on, I can say that these are starting to become these are finales that I actually do enjoy. However, I think The Big Bang is by far the most overrated of all the finales. It's regarded as one of the best ones ever, and I just don't see it. It's a really fun episode. Big Bang's a really fun episode, and it wraps up Series 5 nicely, and it's an enjoyable finale. It's also quite nostalgic, because, you know, Series 5 was quite a long time ago now, and I was 12 or 13, I think, when it came out. I think I was 12, actually. So, you know, it does have a sort of nostalgic feeling to it, and admittedly, like, the tone of Series 5 is really cool. This youthful energy to it. Matt Smith, definitely the highlight of The Big Bang. His performance, and it's great. But the story itself, it's fun, it's alright, I like it, but I don't get why people say it's one of the best episodes of New Who, because I just don't see it. I think The Big Bang is a decent episode, but really it's nothing special, to be honest. It's just a very, very timey-wimey sort of comedy run-around, so yeah, and the stuff that it teased never got paid off later on, so over time it's kind of lost its promise, you know. So Big Bang, yeah, it's decent, it's alright. So at number 6 we have The Name of the Doctor. So The Name of the Doctor is the Series 7 finale. And the thing about The Name of the Doctor is, on paper, I should hate this episode, because this episode, the entire story is a cock tease. This entire story is pulling you in with the promise that you will learn the Doctor's name, which you don't, because really we shouldn't ever learn his name. The show's called Doctor Who, and if his name is, if his name is revealed, then I guess there's no more mystery, to be honest. So yeah, the idea behind Name of the Doctor, it shouldn't work, and the whole Series 7 arc of The Impossible Girl was a big mess. And also the fact that, you know, things like Clara choosing the First Doctor's TARDIS, and just all this, like the fact that Stephen Moffat was throwing in all these classic references to try and bait fans and everything. But somehow, some way, whenever I watch this episode, I love it. I can't describe it. It is such a fun episode. It's so enjoyable from start to finish. The Trenzalore plot and just the entire thing is so enjoyable, and it's probably Matt Smith's best performance, to be honest. I mean, it's right up there with the likes of, 11th Hour, Big Bang, God Complex, all that stuff. Matt Smith is brilliant in Name of the Doctor, and I think really the big reason why this finale succeeds for me is the way it ends, with John Hurt being revealed as the War Doctor. I think if John Hurt wasn't at the end of that episode, it wouldn't feel as satisfying. But yeah, Name of the Doctor is a funny one because, oh, I really should hate it, but I don't. I love it, and I can't explain it. It's going to be interesting to review that one because it's such a bizarre episode, really. But yeah, makes number 6 on this list. Number 5, Last of the Time Lords. So, of course, this is the first Russell finale on this list, and it's not necessarily an unpopular opinion to have this one in last out of the Russell finales, because I've looked over a lot of different lists and whatnot and seen this one rank quite lowly. And whilst to an extent, I sort of agree that it's probably the weakest of the last episodes in the series that Russell ever did, I still think Last of the Time Lords is absolutely brilliant. I think that as a character story for Martha Jones and the wrap-up of the Series 3 arc, I think it does actually pay off pretty well. The thing is about Last of the Time Lords, though, is if you're not invested in Martha's character, you're not going to like it very much, because it's an episode that revolves completely around her. And it's also an episode that revolves around ideas like love, faith, and sort of it plays on a lot of religious ideologies, and it sort of ties into the whole gridlock thing of the people coming together and praying, and almost portrays the Doctor like Space Jesus in a way. And a lot of people do not like that at all. They don't like the fact that, even though I would argue the science, sort of the sci-fi explanation behind why the Doctor is brought back from being old, it does make sense with the whole Archangel network. I do think it does make sense. A lot of people don't like the fact that he sort of rises from the dead like Jesus, and he can overcome the Master by the power of prayer. A lot of people really don't like that. I can see why, but at the end of the day, I still think it makes for a satisfying conclusion to the series, and I really enjoy that episode. Just it's a very strong character episode, and I think it has a lot under the surface that people don't read into. Oh, and also, fucking hell, Captain Jack revealed to be the face of Bo. I mean, that for me, that is just a brilliant moment. And yeah, I think this is definitely one of the most subtle of the Russell finales compared to the others, because the other finales are very bombastic, whereas this one it's more underplayed, and I like that. I think it's nice and different. And yeah, if we were including the first 2 parts of this finale, like Utopia and Sound of Drums, this would be a completely different story, because I think as a whole, that story is absolutely brilliant, and the first 2 parts are phenomenal episodes that I love. And yeah, this will be way higher on the list if we're including those 2, but just focusing on the last part, I do think it does a really good job, and I really enjoy it every time I watch it. It's just I like other finales more, and that's the only reason why it's at number 5. At number 4, we have The Doctor Falls, the Series 10 finale. So this is my favourite Stephen Moffat finale by a million miles. I absolutely adore The Doctor Falls. I remember watching it when it came out. I was at work, and I was watching it on a computer, and I had to contain myself from making noise, because I was just absolutely just loving every second of it when I was watching it at work, and I try not to scream and upset the people working next to me. But honestly, The Doctor Falls is just a brilliant episode. I know it has its critics. I know some people don't like how pretentious some of the speeches are, and some people don't like how Bill Potts is sort of taken out of her Cyberman suit by the pilot character. What's her name? I can't even remember. But they don't like how she was sort of taken out of the thing is about that, though, is it's kind of like it sort of mirrors in some ways the end of Hellbent, where Clara and Ashilda go off, and it's the same way as sort of Bill and that pilot lady go off. And a lot of people compare those and say The Doctor Falls is like Hellbent in that regard, but I think even though, yes, it does create this sort of fairy tale magic happy ending for Bill, in a way it's sort of bittersweet, because I think, you know, apart from that one line where she says, "You can fix atoms and I can bring you back," I find that, if you just remove that one line, that'd be great. But Yeah, in my mind, I think Bill is still dead, and I think her choosing to stay dead, rather like to stay dead and live in the stars rather than live as a Cyberman is sort of this. It's a much more poetic ending to whatever that fuckery in Hellbent was, and yeah, I can see why people don't like it, but for me, it just worked. The execution of it was way more open ended and just not bloody cannon breaking like the Clara one was. But yeah, I think Capaldi in The Doctor Falls is fucking awesome. It actually one of the big reasons why I love this finale is that it actually made me care about Missy as a character, because before The Doctor Falls I really did not care about her, but honestly, The Doctor Falls, Missy's character all comes to a head and it all makes sense. It's only in her last episode that I actually start to really connect with her as the Master. And not to mention John Sim. John Sim is fucking brilliant in this episode. And I love the scene where they kill each other. It's so poetic and it's a great end to those characters. Yeah, The Doctor Falls is just a brilliant finale, and add on to that World Enough in Time and we'd be talking for even longer, but obviously this is just the finale episode, so yeah. Doctor Falls, my favourite Moffat finale, and it's number 4 on this list. So at number 3 we have Doomsday. Now, the thing about Doomsday is I can completely see where some people come from with this one, because there are some people that don't consider Doomsday to be one of the great finales, and the reason why is it doesn't actually have a lot of subtext. It's a very surface level episode. It's bombastic, it's like Hollywood, but I just love it. The Daleks and the Cybermen facing off, the whole Torchwood arc, yeah, it wasn't complicated, but the fact that the Daleks were hidden in the void all this time and the Cybermen came over from the parallel universe, it's just this great sci-fi battle, and the anticipation for the Daleks in the previous episode, I mean, again, that's part 1, but the fact that the episode begins with the Daleks and the Cybermen unleashed, and from the get-go, Doomsday is just a fucking awesome episode to watch. It's always entertaining, always fun, always emphatic, always enjoyable, always great. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, like I said, not the most complicated or complex or smart episode of Doctor Who, but as event television, it serves its purpose. And even though some people don't like the whole Doctor Rose romance thing, and they think that it sort of overshadows that finale, and for some people it even ruins it, I've never really disliked it, to be honest, and I think it creates some really intense drama and dramatic tension and adds a lot to the finale. And yeah, look, polarizing, but I really like it. And you know, I actually think the beach scene, some people don't like it, but I actually think it is deserving to be a famous scene, because it really just shows the whole emotional drama of the Series 2 dynamic. And yeah, I think Doomsday is an absolute classic finale, and yeah, it in its own right, it does what it does. And yeah, maybe it could have been more interesting in the long run, but as it on its own, I love it. But of course, there are finales that are better, so here we go. At number 2, we have Journey's End. Now, what I was saying before about Doomsday, I can sort of repeat with Journey's End. It's not the most subtext finale ever. It's very blockbustery, very bombastic, and very surface level. However, Journey's End is like Doomsday, but you crank up the volume to 11. It is epic to every extent. It is the most bombastic episode of Doctor Who ever. It is just huge and massive, and just this clash of all the favourite Doctor Who companions from the Russell era all coming together for this epic Avengers-like Infinity War level battle with the Daleks and with Davros returning. Yeah, it's so messy, but I love it. I don't care that it's messy. It's an episode that I'm on the edge of my seat from start to finish. It is the most intense, probably the most intense episode of Doctor Who ever, except for maybe the previous part 1, but of course Stolen Earth's not part of this countdown. But Journey's End on its own, Yeah, it has problems, but it's so much fun. I enjoy it every time I watch it. And yeah, it's not number one mainly because it's a mess, but then again, the one that I have ranked number one has a very special place in my heart. And at number one, we have The Parting of the Ways, the Series 1 finale. I mean, what else could it be? I just love The Parting of the Ways, everything about it, from start to finish. It is nostalgia defined. It is the episode of Doctor Who that got me hooked on the show. I will always love this episode. It's just essential. The Ninth Doctor's regeneration story. A base under siege with Daleks. You got Rose, Captain Jack, Mickey, Jackie, Linda, everything. Everything about The Parting of the Ways is epic. It's so awesome, and I will defend the end of that episode till Kingdom Come, because the Bad Wolf story arc throughout Series 1, whilst it was very simple, and it's not as complex or great as some of the others, e.g. the Series 3 arc, which is different, but I'll get onto that in another video. But the Bad Wolf arc all makes sense, and the way it builds up throughout the entire series, and the way that all the different plot elements are introduced throughout the series and under the surface, especially in Boomtown, it all makes sense. And the sort of action of Rose returning to the Doctor on Satellite 5, using the TARDIS's energy to wipe out the Daleks, makes sense because it had been already established before. It was not a Deus Ex Machina. It didn't come out of nowhere. It only comes out of nowhere if you're not paying attention, but it all makes sense because of the series built up to it. And also, morally, it is self-sacrifice, which, in the Davies era, the sort of biggest theme that they were going for was this sort of love and compassion between characters. And I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, I love when storytelling does this, when a big complex story ends where you get two characters who care about each other and respect each other so much that they are willing to sacrifice their lives for the benefit of someone else. That is the true meaning of love in my eyes, and the fact that Rose would be willing to sacrifice herself because she believes in the Doctor and what he stands for against the Daleks is truly outstanding. And the fact that in return the Doctor sacrificed his ninth regeneration to save her because he believed in her after all she did throughout Series 1. It's just a brilliant climax to a brilliant series. In fact, it's my favourite series of Doctor Who. And the fact that it's the Ninth Doctor's regeneration story is awesome. It's my favourite finale of the new series, and it's going to take one hell of an episode to top it. I fucking doubt that Chibnall's got it in him to beat this, because I really don't think it's going to happen. So yeah, anyway, list your rankings below. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure some of you will, but whatever, have at it. I'd love to start a discussion. I'm sure at some point we may do another ranking of these finales with all the part 1s and part 2s and whatnot included in them, because I think that's a whole different topic, because stories and individual episodes can be very different sometimes. But yeah, that's my ranking of the New Who series finales, and I'll see you next time on Genesis of Androzani.